Welcome to the Rewards Master. Today we're going to look at if you just want a simple credit card setup, something that kind of people who are new to the credit card game can amass some points and use them for great travel. Well, what would be the best, cheapest, and kind of the most efficient way to do that? And we're going to look across 4 different card issuers and try to name which one would perhaps be the best for 2025. So if you would hit the like and subscribe button, and let's look at it together. Now, for the purposes of this video, we're going to look at 4 different credit card issuers. Now, the major issuer that's going to be left off of this list is American Express. And the reason for that is even though American Express has some of the most incredible sign-up bonuses in the industry, and also they have some great cards, the reality is that if you're looking for a cheap setup, American Express is just not going to fit that bill. Their cards often have much higher annual fees than their competitors, and you don't get a lot for it just kind of on the base level. In order to get your money back with American Express, you've got to go through a lot of hoops, you got to use a lot of credits, and so forth and so on. So the other reason that we're not going to look at them is because all of these are talking about personal cards. And with American Express, the only way to get kind of a good baseline for points earning, that means on your everything, everyday category spend. And when we look at that, generally we want at least 1.5 points per dollar spent, and most of them have a 2 points per dollar spend card in their arsenal. So when you're looking at that, they just don't have any of that unless you get the Blue Business Plus, which of course is not a personal card, it's a business card. So American Express won't be considered in this. So what we're going to look at is we're going to look at Chase, Wells Fargo, Citi, and Capital One. And as we look at those, I'm going to tell you kind of the different cards that would go in a basic setup. All of these setups are only $95 a year in annual fees. Some of them contain 1 card, one of them contains 3 cards, and another contains 2 cards. So as you're looking at them, they have varying amounts of cards in them to kind of get your basic reward structure in place. But I'm going to talk about their annual fee, which is $95 for each one of them. I want to talk about the different cards that would fit into a simple but very powerful setup. And we're also going to talk about sign-up bonuses and kind of what you get the first year if you get all the cards in the setup. So let's dive into that together. The first issue we're going to look at is Chase. Now with Chase, this is probably the most popular and the biggest of them all. It is the largest bank in the world to my understanding, and Chase cards are very powerful. The reason why people really love Chase cards is because Chase has an incredible ecosystem. Their transfer partners are not as many as, say, American Express. I think maybe just even a few less than some of the others on this list. But they have some great transfer partners. They have some easy ones, things like Southwest Airlines and United Airlines, and kind of the crown jewel Hyatt, which Hyatt hotels, their points are just way more valuable on a point-by-point basis than almost all of their competitors in the hotel space. So you get just fantastic value. The other reason this is a very popular setup is when you have the Chase Sapphire Preferred, there's also the Reserve, which is a really expensive card at over $500 a year. But the Preferred is a $95 a year card. And when you use their travel portal, the Preferred gives you the benefit of 1.25 cents per dollar value. So you don't have to spend the points in the portal at 1 cent per dollar like with all of their competitors. You get 1.25. So if people use the travel portal, you get that little extra boost. Now the first card in the Chase setup is that Sapphire Preferred. It's $95 a year, and it's a fairly decent card in that it has some pretty good multipliers. The multipliers are you get 3x on dining, which I think would arguably be its best multiplier. You get some elevated bonuses if you're using their portal for, say, hotels and rental cars. I think it's 5x on those only through that portal, and then 2x on all travel that you do outside of the portal. And then it has like some strange ones like an elevated on online grocery. I don't think a lot of people use that. And then it's just 1x everywhere else. The current sign-up bonus is kind of their typical sign-up bonus, and that's about 60,000 points if you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months. So that's pretty kind of standard fare, par for the course in this kind of mid-tier travel card arena. So the Sapphire Preferred is kind of your base card. That allows you to transfer out to partners. It allows you to use their travel portal. What will we pair with that? Well, the second card you'd want to pair with that would be the Chase Freedom Unlimited card. It's a no annual fee card. It has a $250 sign-up bonus when you spend $500 in the first 3 months. So that's not a big sign-up bonus. It comes out to about 25,000 Chase points, but it's for a very, very small spend. And this card, the only negative about it is that it kind of laps over with the Sapphire card in that it also has 3x on dining, so you could use either one for that. But kind of its shining role in this setup is it gives you 1.5x on your general spend. So on everything you spend. So all the stuff that doesn't fit into a category, you're going to get 1.5x ultimate reward points from Chase. So that's the Freedom Unlimited card. The other card that fits into the setup is the Freedom Flex card. Now, this card is a rotating category card. They assign different categories every quarter. So in a 3-month span, that get an elevated 5 points per dollar back up to $500 in spend. So sometimes it's groceries, sometimes it's restaurants, sometimes it's odd things like, I think they've had McDonald's on there before, stuff like that. So this card is kind of a use it sometimes kind of card. That's the Chase Freedom Flex card. And so you could have just a 2-card setup with the Chase Sapphire Preferred card and the Chase Freedom Unlimited. And you could also add in, kind of as a third card, that Chase Freedom Flex, and it has a similar sign-up bonus to the Unlimited card. And it just kind of gives a little bit more extra power to the setup if you use those rotating categories periodically throughout the year. One last thing I want to mention is a credit. I mentioned that there's a $95 annual fee. The other 2 cards have a $0 annual fee, so the total is $95. But you do, on the Sapphire Preferred, you get a credit of $50 if you book a hotel through their portal once a year. So that kind of brings the effective annual fee, if you just stay in one hotel night throughout the year, it brings the effective annual fee down to $45, which is really, really inexpensive for a decent travel setup with a major bank currency. The next issuer we look at is Wells Fargo. Now, kind of the base card for this is what's called the Autograph Journey card. It's a $95 annual fee card. It has some really good multipliers. And Wells Fargo, their ecosystem is still growing. They just have a few transfer partners, but they're pretty good transfer partners. Not going to be near as easy to use as Chase's. There's no United Airlines or Hyatt or any of that. But they do have things like Air France, Flying Blue, and they have like the British Airways, the Avios type things. So they have some good ones, but certainly not as accessible as the ones with Chase. However, it's a $95 card that gives some really good multipliers. It has a 60,000 point sign-up bonus, just like with the Chase card, on $4,000 in spend in the first 3 months. Now, their multipliers are very interesting and, frankly, more powerful than the Chase Sapphire Preferred. You get 5x at hotels, and that's booked directly with the hotel. And so that's super, super easy to use. If you stay in hotels hardly at all, that's about the best multiplier you're going to find. It gets 4x at airlines. So when you book your flights directly with American or United or Delta or whoever it is, you're going to get 4x, which is a really, really good multiplier. You also get 3x on a couple of categories, and that is the categories of general travel and the category of restaurants. So those are really solid multipliers. Now, if you want to really make this card even more powerful, you can add to it the Wells Fargo Active Cash card, which is a 0 annual fee card that gives just a flat 2% back that can be transferred over to your Journey card and used as Wells Fargo points, and it gives 2% back on everything. The Active Cash has a $200 bonus, so in essence, 20,000 Wells Fargo points after spending $500 in the first 3 months. So it's a super easy bonus to get. So you put those two together, you're getting 2% or 2 points per dollar everywhere. You're getting 5 on your hotel purchases, 4 on your airline purchases, 3 on your restaurant purchases, and 3 on your general travel purchases. So that's a really good card. I'm not going to go into it here, but there's also a third one you can add, which is the Attune card, and it gives 4 points per dollar. It's also a 0 annual fee. It gives 4 points per dollar on a whole bunch of like random other categories like gyms and vet services and all sorts of stuff. You can look that one up, but that one would also be a great companion to this 2-card setup. But even just those two together, Wells Fargo is really a powerful setup. Now, the Autograph card also has a $50 credit every year, and it's for airline purchases. So whereas you get it with Chase if you book through their portal a hotel, but with Wells Fargo, all you have to do is book an airline ticket. You're going to get $50 back. So it's also got a net annual fee of $45 a year. The third setup we look at is the Citibank setup. And Citi, kind of their base card, the one that you need as a foundation for your setup, is the Citi Strata Premier card. Also a $95 annual fee, and this card is a very powerful card. It earns 75,000 Citi thank you points on spending $4,000 in the first 3 months. So you're getting a boosted sign-up bonus if you sign up for the Citi card over the 60,000 you get with Wells Fargo or the 60,000 you get with Chase. Now, Citi's transfer partners, I wouldn't say are as good as they are with Chase, but there's quite a few of them. I have a lot of Citi cards and a lot of Citi thank you points, and I use their transfer partners all the time. They're pretty good. They're definitely more than Wells Fargo has. Now, the Strata Premier gives a lot of 3X categories. It gives 3X on airfare, it gives 3X on gas, it gives 3X on groceries, which that grocery category is really very powerful. But then what you'd want to do is you'd want to pair that with another Citi card, which is kind of the Citi Double Cash. Now, they call it the Double Cash because it's a 0 annual fee credit card, and it gives you 1 point when you purchase something and 1 point when you pay your bill. So in essence, it comes back to 2 points on everything that you buy. This card also has a $200 bonus or 20,000 Citi thank you points if you look at it that way, but you got to spend quite a bit more. You got to spend $1,500 on it in the first 3 months to get that. So a little bit more than the others, but you're getting basically a similar amount on that. So this is kind of the everyday, everywhere, non-category spend card. Now, there is a super powerful Citi card you can add to this as your third card, which is the Citi Custom Cash. It has a similar sign-up bonus to the Citi Double Cash, but the Citi Custom Cash, this card is very powerful in that it gives you 5% or 5 points per dollar back on a single category that you choose. In other words, they give it to you on whatever category you spend the most on, up to $500 a month or $1,500 a quarter. So that's a very, very powerful card. You can use it for, and then there's quite an extensive list of categories. It could be your dining card or your grocery card or your travel card, whatever it may be, and you can get those points back. So if you add those three together, you've got an extremely powerful setup with Citi. Now, you can offset the annual fee on the Citi Strata Premier, which is $95, and actually get a little back because they have a $100 hotel credit through their portal, but you have to spend $500 on the hotel. But if you do that through the Citi portal, you're going to get $100 back. The card's going to be, the entire setup's going to be absolutely free after that net annual fee is figured. So that's the Citi setup. The last setup we look at is the Capital One setup. And this is a one-card setup. It's the Capital One Venture. It's also $95. Now, some on here are probably going to respond, well, what about the Venture X? It's $395. And they're absolutely right. The Venture X is a way better deal. It is a super good card. It gives airport lounge access, but it's $395 a year. It also gives 2X back everywhere, which is what this Venture card does. But I didn't really want to make the video about that card because it doesn't fit within our mid-tier. It's an elite tier travel card. So we're talking about mid-tier travel cards. So the Venture card only has a $95 a year annual fee, and it also gives 2x back on everything you buy everywhere, whether it's airfare or hotels or grocery, whether it's paying your utilities or paying your taxes, it doesn't matter. You get 2x everywhere. So for the same $95 annual fee. So it's basically a one card setup. So when we look at each of these, how do we rank them? Well, I think that if we were talking about the Venture X, this would go very differently. But I think in fourth place, we've got to put the Capital One Venture Card. Because even though it gets a little bit of an elevated bonus, it has 75,000 points for spending 4,000 in the first 3 months, but that matches Citi, so it certainly wouldn't put them over them. And it does get a little bit more on its base earning than the 1.5 you get on the Chase Freedom Unlimited card. But that's all you're getting. There is no elevated multipliers, and the card's $95 a year. It's difficult to offset that fee. And basically, I mean, there'd be no reason to have this rather than to go up to the Venture X card, which gets enough credits back to make it free, basically. Even some people kind of even act like they pay you to have the card. So it's almost a no-brainer that anybody who would get this card would try to get the Venture X card if they could. So I think we have to put the Venture card and the Capital One setup in fourth place. Now from here, it gets difficult to determine what should come next. Because if you talk about multipliers, well, it kind of depends. If you have a 3-card setup, probably Citi's the best. If you have a 2-card setup, I think you could argue Wells Fargo's the best. And I don't really think you could argue at all that Chase is the best in this because their multipliers kind of overlap, their cards do. But then you look on the other side of the equation, Wells Fargo doesn't have very good transfer partners, not very many of them. The other two have more. Chase has an excellent ecosystem. You can get 1.25 for your points through their portal. The others don't have that. So I don't know how to really rank them. I guess what I'm going to say at the outset, even though I am going to make them 1, 2, and 3 here in just a moment, is that I think all 3 of them are very good. And you really wouldn't go wrong with any of those 3. With Wells Fargo, you're going to do pretty well. If you get the Attune, so if you get 3 cards instead of 2, you're going to do really well. With Citi, you're going to do really well with the 2. And if you get the custom cash, wow, it is just amazing if you do it right. And then with Chase, I mean, you just got the power of the Chase ecosystem. So it's very, very good. So how do I rank them? Well, I guess I've got to go with my gut. And my gut tells me that Wells Fargo needs to be in the number 3 place. And you may disagree, and I would like to hear how you order them down in the comments. Maybe you'll have a totally different number 1, 2, 3, and 4. But for me, Wells Fargo goes there, and it's not because of the earnings. The earnings are good. I mean, it's easy to get that credit back through the airlines. That is super easy. I mean, the cards just really good, and the earnings are really good. But they have very few transfer partners, and you know, Wells Fargo doesn't have the greatest reputation. I'm trying not to hold that against them, but we're just comparing it to the other 2. And so I think that the other 2 just eke out a little bit better. Now it gets real hard. A Citi or Chase. I love my Citi setup and I love my Chase setup. And I think I've just got to go with my own experience and with my own gut. And for me, I'm going to put the Chase setup in the 2nd place. And even though you get that 1.25, not everybody uses travel portals. I don't use them very much. For some people, kind of as you're starting out, super good. So for you, Chase may be number 1. And I certainly think there's a powerful argument for that. But for me, I put them in number 2, basically because even though their ecosystem brings them up high, I think their earnings just don't match up to Citi. I mean, you're getting 3x on a few categories, but those categories overlap with all their cards. And to get really the boost, you're only getting it sometimes if you have the 3-card setup, because even though I love the Chase Freedom Flex, it's not always got useful categories. It's not always something I'm going to use, or sometimes it's just where I'm just getting a little bit more than I would have, say, with dining, already getting 3, then you're getting 5. So in that setup, I think that Chase, even though very good, one of the best beginning setups for people. For me, I'm going to put it number 2, which brings us to what I think is the very best for 2025. Simple travel card setup for $95, which is the Citi setup. Citi has the Strata Premier. It has 3x on gas, 3x on dining, 3x on groceries. Those are 3 major categories for people. When you pair it with the Double Cash, you're getting 2x everywhere. And when you pair it with a custom cash, if you do the 3-card system, you're getting 5x on a category of your choice. And I understand that maybe that credit for a hotel is a little harder to use, but you're getting the entire $95 back if you book a hotel through their portal. It's $500 or more. So at the end of the day, all 3 of those, I wouldn't go with just the Venture. I'd do the Venture X, and then that'd be a whole different discussion if we talked about that. But if I was looking for kind of a beginning setup to get started in the credit card game in 2025, I would think any of those 3 are very good. Wells Fargo, Citi, or Chase. But I would say Wells Fargo is number 3, Chase is number 2, and Citi and their thank you point ecosystem is number 1. Now tell me why you agree or disagree. Down in the comments below, put a number 1, 2, 3, and 4, which one you think is the best, from best to worst. I'd love to see that because, hey, I could have got it wrong. So if you would, both like and subscribe this video, and I'll see you here next time.